सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। We were studying the mantra Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. A very, very simple mantra and a very simple mantra like the entire message. The entire knowledge is packed by that. Simple words. Purnam, Adaha, Idam, Purnam. That's all. The whole mantra is only these simple words. That, this, Purnam. So the whole mantra is made up of these three words. And then one adjective comes. That's all. So for all practical purposes, three words. That, this, Purnam. Purnam is infinite. Purnam means complete. Purnam means full. Purnam means infinite. That, this. The entire Vedantic knowledge uses terminologies like this. Instead of saying what is, they could have straight away said what is that and what is this. Then it becomes very easy. We need not sit and break our head to understand what they are saying. But the classic language, the classic style of Vedanta is they talk about that and this. So a lot of explanation goes into what is that and lot of elaboration goes into what is this. What do they mean by that and what do they mean by this? All that is known, unknown, everything that we discussed on philosophy, that we discuss in philosophy, boils down to these two words, that and this. That refers a distance. This refers to a closeness. That place, this place. I'll say that place, California, this place, Chennai. In Chennai, that and this. Again here, that and this. So the two words that and this indicates the distance and the nearness. If we go on eliminating that and that and that, and we go on coming back closer and closer and closer, a time comes where that and this becomes one. That is Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. That is the logical elaboration. You go on coming backwards. You go on coming backwards. You go on coming backwards. A time comes where that and this merges. Purnasya Purnamadhaya. Infinite has come out of infinite. Meaning, at one level, what looks like that and this They are not two separate. They are not two separate. That refers to the supreme reality. This refers to the world. The world means all that can be seen, known, felt, understandable. So what is this here? This refers to the world. World means all that is perceivable, all that is felt, all that is understandable, all that is conceivable. In one word, it's called drishyam. All that is known, knowable comes under this. How do we justify the interpretation that refers to the supreme reality? This refers to the world. How do we justify this interpretation? Isavasya Upanishad itself clarifies in the first mantra what does the Upanishad mean by this? Isavasyam idam sarvam. Idam sarvam asya isha. That's how the first mantra starts. Isavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. I'm not going into the full mantra. So the idam, the Isavasya itself defines it as the world. And what do we mean by the world? Wherever, whenever in Vedanta, in philosophy, we use the word world, it means all that is perceivable, all that is knowable, all that is understandable. That comprises the world. So that is infinite. This is infinite. When infinite is taken away from infinite, what remains is infinite. Okay, infinite minus infinite. Okay, 2 minus 2, 0. 10 minus 10, 0. 100 minus 100, 0. Infinite minus infinite. No, school we studied all that. No. Infinite minus infinite is indeterminable. You cannot say 0. Because infinite minus infinite is indeterminable, meaning it cannot be, you cannot actually say what remains. It is indeterminable because what remains is infinite. This is the mantra. And one of the great thinkers said, if all the Vedas and Vedanta, everything goes out, everything the human being forgets also, it's not a problem. As long as this mantra is kept alive. Yes, if this mantra is kept alive, from this, the entire edifice of philosophy can be built. And there is a lot of value to this invocatory prayer. Normally, an Upanishadic invocatory prayer will not be taken into such a detailed analysis. In the Isavasya Upanishad, the invocatory mantra itself is taken for a detailed study and analysis, because the words, the 3 words, what are the 3 words? Adaha means that. Idam means this. The subject is this, the object is this, the subject with all the properties and qualities is this, the object with all the properties and qualities is this. So in the word this, everything is implied. What is the nature of this? The nature of this is infinite. How do we say this as infinite? Brahman is infinite, is okay. How can we account and say the world is infinite? It is also infinite because it is also infinite. Why do we call it as infinite? Anything that comes out of Brahman will have the property of Brahman. We have seen that already. The superimposition will carry the original property. We have seen that already. In Maya, when we did the study in Maya, we understood. What did we understand? The superimposition will have the property of the original, and the superimposition cannot be anything different from the original. Meaning, a boulder can be misunderstood as an elephant. A boulder cannot be misunderstood as a snake. A rope can be misunderstood as a snake. A rope cannot be misunderstood as a tiger. Can it? It cannot. For the superimposition must have the property of the original. Since Brahman is infinite, anything that comes out of infinite is infinite. The word Purnam is a beautiful word. Adaha and Idam is talking about the world, etc. The word Purnam is the philosophical content. Purnam means complete. Purnam means full. Purnam means whole. Purnam means infinite. In this word Purnam, the vision of Vedanta is very clear. What? Completeness or wholeness or fullness or infinite is the vision of Vedanta. That is very clear. So this word Purnam again is a very beautiful word. Purnam means whole. Purnam means complete. Purnam means full. Purnam means complete, whole, full. All necessarily has to be infinite. How can you say that? How can you say anything full has to be infinite? When you say something is whole, something is full, something is complete, it cannot be limited. Or anything that is limited cannot be whole, full. Are you able to follow? Limited means anything that is limited means it is limited by the boundary. Limited by the boundary, limited by the form, limited by the gunas. When we say wholeness, when we say fullness, when we say completeness, it means all, everything in it. And everything in it necessarily must be infinite. For anything limited cannot be whole. Are you able to follow? This is very important in understanding. Anything limited cannot be whole. If you understand that, then Purnam makes sense. If I say anything limited is whole by itself, then Purnam will have no meaning. Because there is wholeness already. Then the word Purnam will have no relevance at all. So it means, how do we understand the word Purnam? Purnam means that which is whole. Whole means that which has no boundaries. Complete means that which is not limited by anything. That is Purnam. This is Purnam. Why? That is also Purnam. This is also Purnam. Even though at a very elementary level, it looks like that and this. When you go on breaking it up, when you go on breaking it up and going into the core, deeper, 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 that and this merges. How do we understand that? That's how I started the discussion by. That place, this place. That person, this person. So that indicates a distance. This indicates a closeness. So you go on getting closer and closer and closer. You leave the world behind and you come to the subject. And when you come to the subject, the body becomes that and mind becomes this. At another level, the mind becomes that and intellect becomes this. You still go deeper, everything becomes that and this remains. When all that is eliminated, what remains is this. And what is this? Purnam. What is that? What is, so that is Purnam, this is Purnam. That is complete, this is complete. That is whole, this is whole. That is full, this is full. Anything limited can never be full. Anything limited or all that is limited cannot be full. இதெல்லாம் புரிஞ்சதுன்னா you'll understand the beauty of that one word, Purnam. Anything limited cannot be Purnam. Why you cannot say anything limited as Purnam? Anything limited always want to change into something else, always want to become something else. So there is a constant wanting to become something. The very thirst of wanting to become something indicates that there is no Purnatvam. If there is Purnatvam, what will drive the change? What will want you to become better and better and better? Are you able to follow? Vasanthi. Fullness means satisfaction. Fullness means there is nothing that is required further. Limitation means always wanting something, always needing something, changing. So when we talk about Purnam, fullness, anything that is full is complete in itself, and anything that is complete in itself, it will not, there is no chance of betterment any further. That is Purnam. So limitation means always something appears better, something looks better. In the case of Purnam, fullness means as it is complete. As it is complete. It means the idea of growth, change, betterment, all that is gone in the backdrop of Purnam. Why? Because it is full. It is full already. It is full already. But sir, I don't experience that fullness. No, I am not feeling that. Okay, you are saying the Upanishad is saying it is full. I don't feel it. No, I don't know it. No, I don't understand it. No, I don't experience it. No. In order to know Purnam, you need a shift. You need a very fundamental shift in thinking. The very fundamental shift in thinking is this. Purnam is always in relation to the present. Purnam is in relation to the moment. Purnam is in relation to the present. Growth, betterment, etc. all belongs to the future. The past and the future is from the mind. The present is the reality. The past is from the mind and the future is also from the mind. How do you know the past and future is from the mind? How do you understand that? Very simple. Have you ever observed what you call as a better future will be opposite of your past? What you call as better future will be exactly the opposite of your past. In the past, if you didn't have wealth, what is better future? The opposite of it. In the past, there were 30 people in the house all the time. What is better future? All by yourself. If you have been all by yourself in the past, what is better future? Having 30 people. So, this is how we understand what we call as past and future is nothing but the product of the mind. And the present is not the product of the mind because the present is the reality. So, the present Purnam, fullness, is in relation to the present. Betterment, growth, etc. are always in relation to the future. That's why very loosely everybody says, how to be in the moment, sir. Nowadays they don't talk about present. They use the word how to be in the moment, how to be in the present. In order to be in the present, you can't intensely focus and be in the present and all. To be in the present is to recognize the fullness. To be in the present means you have recognized your fullness. Supposing if you have not recognized your fullness, you can never be in the present. Why? Because the mind wants to create the opposite of the past. The mind always wants to create the opposite of the past. Understand it like that, it becomes very easy. What you call as future, what you call as betterment will be the opposite of your past. Are you okay till now? The past and future? Okay. You get it. The moment you get it, it becomes the past. Are you able to follow the fallacy now? You strive and strive and strive and get it. The moment you, as soon as you get it, instantly what you got becomes the past, and the mind will start projecting the opposite of it. Like he gives example, no? The single person will dream about married, and the married person will dream of being single. The mind keeps going into this past and the future. In order to recognize the Purnam, the shift has to happen what? The shift has to be not from the past, not from the future. That is in relation to the present. And what is meant by in relation to the present? In relation to the present, it is Purnam. As it is Purnam. As it is Purnam. Please understand, as it is Purnam means, as it is, the body is not Purnam. As it is, the mind is not Purnam. As it is, the intellect is not Purnam. For the body, mind, intellect by nature is limited, and anything that is limited cannot be Purnam. How do you say that? Anything that is limited has a boundary, and it cannot exist outside the boundary. Since it cannot exist outside the boundary, it is limited by that boundary, then how can you call it as whole? WHOLE, yeah? How can you call it as whole? How can you call it as complete? Are you able to follow? Venkatachalam. Anything, if you want to call something as the whole, it cannot be any of what we know. For all that we know is limited by a few. What is it? What is that? What is it limited by? It is limited by a form. The moment when we say it is limited by a form, what does it mean? It doesn't exist outside the boundary. All countries are limited by nature. Why? Because it has a, because all countries has a boundary, no? Okay, world, no, world itself has a boundary. It means it doesn't exist outside of it. That's why you can go out of it and you can come back. It means it has a bound. So anything that has a form cannot be whole. So when we are talking about wholeness, we are not talking about a form being a whole. With this confusion, I stop. Clear? Enough confusion for the half an hour of confusion is enough for once in a week, half an hour of confusion. That's all we'll do. Anything that has a form cannot be whole. Whole, Purnam, means it has to be all pervasive. Then only it can be Purnam. Something that is not all pervasive cannot call it as Purnam. So when we talk about wholeness, we are not talking about a form becoming a whole. We say the form can never become the whole. And then what is this mantra saying? Purnam idam. The core of idam is Purnam, not the outer form. The outer form is not Purnam. The core is Purnam. There is the periphery and then there is the core. In everything, there are two things, no? One is the periphery and the other is the core. Here, when we say Purnam idam, the periphery is not Purnam. The periphery is Namarupa. The periphery is limited. That cannot be whole. That cannot be Purnam. That is why you can never have a perfect human being in a form. That is not possible. Why? Because form means limitations. Form means limitations. So when we say Purnam idam, what does it mean? The core of idam is Purnam. So that is Purnam. Out of that Purnam comes this core, which again is Purnam. Okay. Take away infinite from infinite. What is taking away infinite from infinite? That's another beautiful thought. Take away infinite from infinite. What remains is infinite. Meaning, how much ever you take it out, how much ever appearances keep happening again and again and again, the original remains the same. How much ever appearances happen, the appearances doesn't affect the original. Snake coming out of the rope doesn't affect the rope. Does it affect the rope? It doesn't affect the rope. Okay. The pot coming out of the clay, does it affect the clay? That is clay. This is clay. Understand it like that. That is clay. When we say that is clay, the formless clay is clay. This is clay means the pot is clay. Are you okay till now? When pot comes out of clay, what remains? When pot comes out of clay, what remains? Clay remains. Nothing happens to the clay. How can the pot is coming out and going back? There has to be minimal loss of, there has to be a minimal loss, no? When something comes out of something, there has to be a minimal loss. Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyata says, all that you are talking may be true in the observable Namarupa, but in the reality, nothing changes. In reality, nothing changes. Ramatirtha gives a beautiful example. The bent tube example he gives. He gives the example of the bent tube. What is the example of the bent tube? In the chemistry lab, you boil the water. When you boil the water, after a few minutes, the entire water in the pot is boiled. What has happened? It has turned into vapor. There is no water. There is no water. And then that vapor is collected in the bent tube. That vapor is collected in the bent tube, and then it comes back as droplets, and then they measure. Is there a loss? Has anybody studied about these experiments? Does anybody know about these experiments? When they study the loss, there is no loss. How can it be? It was so much was there, everything became dried up, and now it goes, something has to be lost. You have to, some loss has to be there, no? Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate says there is no loss whatsoever, irrespective of the Namarupa. The example that he gives to explain this is lighting many candles from a single flame. Lighting Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Take away infinite from infinite. Take away infinite from infinite means not taking away literally. What it means is something comes out of it. When something comes out of it, is there a loss? Is there a loss to the original? Is the question. Take away means something is coming out. Take away means there's nobody there taking out. What it means is when something, there is a thing, something comes out of it. Will it diminish in quantity? Will it diminish in quality? The answer is no. How much ever you keep taking out, it neither diminishes in quality nor in quantity. That's why to make it very simple, we give it as a different, we give a different example. You have 10 rupees, you give away 5 rupees, you are less by 5 rupees, correct? You have 10 rupees, you give away 5 rupees, you are less by 5 rupees. Okay. You have 10 rupees, you give away the 10 rupees, you are less by Bondi, sir, isn't it? Yeah. or a bondi. Bondi means bankrupt. Yeah. Bondi means bankrupt. You have 10 rupees and you have given away the 10 rupees. What happens to you? You become bankrupt. This is one economics. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate comes with a different economics. The different economics that it comes with is what? You have 10 rupees, you give away 10 rupees, and you will be left with 10 rupees. Purnamada Purnamidam is okay, sir. This Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate is slightly blabbering only. Please, you also accept that. At least Adaha, that and this is that and this made some sense. But this Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate is simple blabbering. In fact, when the Westerner came and he wanted to study the Upanishad, traditionally they started with the Isavasi Upanishad. So Isavasi Upanishad, when we study the 10 Upanishads, we always starts with Isa. Isa, Kena, Kata. It goes in that order. It goes in that order. Now, don't ask me who fixed that order and all that. That's the order, and it's a beautiful order also. Why it is a beautiful order? If you understand Isa, you don't need to study the 10. If you don't understand Isa, you need to study Isa, Kena, Kata, you go like that. So, the person started chanting. Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate. The Western scholar stopped that person and said, okay, tell me the meaning of this. And he started saying the meaning. What is it? That is infinite. This is infinite. Infinite has come out of infinite. Take away infinite from infinite. What remains is infinite. It's blabbering, it is. Why it is blabbering? Because the economics doesn't make any sense. Why it doesn't make any sense? Because if something comes out of it, it diminishes in quantity and quality. If the world comes out of Brahman, what happens to Brahman? Does any loss happens there? No. Why? Because that is why it's called Brahmanda. Brahma Anda. That Brahma plus Anda equals Brahmanda. Brahmanda means more and more and more you know, it keeps growing. It keeps growing that much. At one point of time, they thought only 3 things are there: sun, moon, and earth. Nothing else is there. And then they found some stars, and then universe. The sun, and that goes around the sun. And then they found out, no. Sun itself is a very small star. Sun itself is very small compared to, so all put together is one. And then, I don't know, they go on giving names: galaxy, Milky Way, everything. And finally they say, all that is so huge, so unfathomable, and they give the diameters and all. I don't know who measured the diameter to say this is the distance, this is the diameter. I don't know who, but then we all accept it also. No, we all accept it also, even though we have no clue to that methodology. We still accept it. Yeah, because human beings are basically superstitious by nature. That's all. Yeah. Anything anybody says, we accept. And then they said, whole thing is there. This is called universe. And now there are 100 such like that. One itself is not fathomable. 100 such is meaning infinite. Meaning it is infinite. It goes infinite means what? The origin and the end cannot be known. That where the origin and the end cannot be known is infinite. Again, I repeat. Infinite means the origin cannot be known, the end also cannot be known. More you go deeper and deeper and deeper into the origin, it gets that deeper. Infinite it is. The end, that also is. So what is infinite means? More you know, that much more remains to be known. Therefore, all this has come out of infinite. When this has come out of it, what has happened to the original? What happens to the original? He says, nothing will happen to the original. It remains as it is in its original glory while supporting infinite number of manifestations. It remains infinite by itself while supporting the infinite manifestations. After this, what can you talk? There is nothing to talk. There is nothing to study. There is nothing to comprehend after this. Since it is too difficult to comprehend and understand and all that, they further break it down and they give us various indicators. Since this Purnam is too difficult to comprehend, they give various indicators. Lastly, Purnam means abundance. Purnam means abundance. Abundance means unlimited. Abundance means unlimited. This word Purnam changes your very notion of life. Your very understanding of life changes by this word Purnam. What is that? Life can be seen as a phenomena of limited resources, and life can be seen as the phenomena of abundance. You can have two understandings about life. One is it is limited resources. Another one is it is in abundance. What is your state of mind when you see it as limited resources? What is your state of mind when you understand it as abundance? When you see it as limited resources, always in worry, anxiety, stress. Why? You have to acquire it. You have to preserve what you have acquired, and you cannot let go of it. Why? Because you can never get it back again, because it's limited. No. First you have to acquire. In that process of acquisition, because it is limited by nature, if you have to run over somebody, you have to run over somebody. If you have to pull somebody down, you have to pull somebody down. Why? Because it is limited resources. Okay. You understand it as abundance. What happens? If you understand life as abundance, what happens? You can always say after you. If you understand it as limited resources, you can never say after you. If you understand it as abundance, you can always say after you. So much is there. There is no need to, so much is there. There is no need to run over somebody. There is no need to be in such a tension. There is no need to be in such a hurry because it is there. It is infinite. It is in abundance. The Vedantic vision of life is the realistic vision of life, which is abundance. The worldly vision of life is blinded. What is the blindness there? It is limited. And the moment you see something as limited, what happens? Limited resources means everybody will want it, no? Since you want it, the methodology you adopt to get it becomes justified because it is limited. Invariably, the methodology is adharmic by nature. Invariably, the methodology will be adharmic by nature. No, sir. How can you call it as adharmic and all? That's how the world is, sir. It's a tough world out there, full of competition. Abundance says there's no need to compete. Abundance says no need to compete. Why? It is there. So it is there already. Understanding abundance removes the fear. Understanding abundance removes the fear. Viewing life as limited resources, you will be in constant fear. That is why, even at the level of wealth, enough is never enough. He said, he asked, when is enough? That point will never come. Why that point will never come? Fear. What is the fear? It is limited. Purnamada Purnamidam Kamsan presents a totally different view of life, which is realistic by nature. What is that view of life that it presents? It says it is in abundance. The grace is abundance. Everything about life is abundance. You need a different eye to see abundance. That eye is through the eye of knowledge. You need a different eye to recognize the abundance. Because with the ordinary eyes you look at it, it will be limited only. Why? Because the ordinary eyes, which are limited by nature, can never see abundance. Again, I repeat. If you see everything with the limited eye, the eye itself is limited. Since the eye itself is limited, all that the eye sees will be limited. So you can never see abundance with the eyes. You need a different eye. That different eye is called Jnana Chakshu. So Purnam gives you the Jnana Chakshu. Jnana Chakshu means the eye of wisdom. Chakshu means the eyes. Jnanam means knowledge. The eyes that you get through wisdom. Jnanam here means wisdom. Knowledge, wisdom. So Jnana Chakshu is called the eye of wisdom. So abundance is seen only through the eye of wisdom. And a person who sees this abundance is a fearless person. A person who sees it with the two fleshy eyes will necessarily be in fear. Why? Because the eyes will see everything as limited only. You can never persuade the eye asking it to register abundance. It is not capable of registering it. That is why it is possible only through knowledge and understanding. And Purnam, the word Purnam gives you that infinite vision. That Jnana Chakshu it gives. What is it? Abundance. But sir, if we keep talking like this, we won't grow at all, no? We keep talking like this, we won't grow at all, no? Vedanta comes and asks, before you aspire for growth, define growth properly. Define growth properly and then aspire for it. You don't even know how to define growth properly. Since you do not know how to define growth itself properly, all that you chase in the name of growth will be limited by nature only. Why? Because the very definition of growth is not proper, is not clear. We all should grow in life, no, sir? What is growth? Growth for a individual, growth for a society, growth for a country, or growth for a species alone? Invariably, when we talk about growth, our concept of growth is so limited. Why? At the most, we talk about growth of one species. What is that one species? Human beings. Life has changed so much, sir. Not for 99.9% of species, life didn't change at all. It remains the same. Correct? What the lion was doing 5,000 years back is what it is doing now. What it is doing now, it is what it will do 10,000 years later also. Maybe when Pralaya comes and everything gets wiped out, it will be different. So what do we mean by growth? Vedanta comes and says, before you aspire for growth, before you run behind this thing called growth, pause and ask yourself, what do you mean by growth? What do you mean by growth? Very simple, sir. Better than yesterday is growth. Where is the problem? Why are you complicating it? Subramaniam, correct? Huh? Growth is very simple, sir. From bullock cart to the wheel, from bullock cart to the motorized horse cart to the motorized horse cart is a growth. From the motorized horse cart to the car is the growth. From the car to this is growth. What is your problem? Can't you see growth? And then Vedanta turns back and asks, is this growth? Of course it is growth. The pain, the agony, the worry, the anxiety, the uncertainty, the fear, if all this is remaining the same, what is growth? The fear is remaining the same. Are you able to follow? Venkatachalam. My great-grandfather also lived in fear. Some fear he lived. I don't know what fear. Because I don't even know that man. But definitely I should have had a great grandfather. No? Otherwise, I won't be sitting here. The fact that I am sitting here means there was a great grandfather. Now that great grandfather also had a fear. My grandfather also had a fear. My father also lived in fear. At least that much I know. And I'm also living in fear. That I don't know. And my daughter will continue to live in fear. What has grown? We don't know whether to call it as growth or not. That is why we say Vedanta class alone too much. We should not come and study Vedanta and take all this seriously. Why? Because even the nothing, people know how to criticize and belittle and make sure nothing is positive at all in life. What is growth? If you say growth is better than the past, you are chasing a mirage. You are chasing a mirage. How do we say that we are chasing a mirage? We already explained that. The better future is nothing but the exact opposite of your past. If you are living in a small house, what is better future? Big house. You have a big house and suffer from maintenance issues. You have a big house, but maintenance issues, too much difficult to maintain, sir. Too much difficult to maintain. Now, that better future has turned into a miserable past now. Now, what is future? A small house. And you look at that person's and you look at a human being's life in growth. What do we call as the growth? From small house to big house? Or the big house back to the small house? Vasanti. He has a house. Beautiful. There is a street in Mylapore. Beautiful name that Teru has. Yeah. Nadutteru nu vaangadu. Yeah, Nadutterla nikram paathe. Nadutteru means a fellow on the streets. Isn't it? The street name in Mylapore is Nadu Street. Nadutteru nu solluttavu. Yeah. House there. House there is not good. Somewhere else house is good. And from somewhere else house is good. After all that, now they have come to a very wise decision. 35 years later, they have come to a wise decision. What? The house in Nadu Street is the best house. Going back to that house now. What is growth in that? You grow, you move in a circle. Are you able to understand? You are constantly moving in a circle. When you are on one end of the circle, you call it as growth. When you are in another side of the circle, you call it as fall. So for all practical purposes, there is no such thing as growth or fall. You are constantly moving in a chakra, cycle, circle. And that circle is called samsara chakra. Yeah. That circle is called that chakra. What is the right vision about life? What is the right vision that Jnana Chakshu should give you? The vision that Jnana Chakshu gives you is, it is in life equals abundance. Abundance brings about gratitude. Abundance brings about gratitude. Limited resources brings about complaining, worry, anxiety, etc. You recognize abundance, you become grateful. All this philosophy is revolving around one word, Purnam. That's all. All this is revolving around what? All this we are elaborating And what is the source? The keyword. The keyword. What is that word? That word is beautiful. Purnam. And Purnam doesn't mean perfect. Purnam means whole, full. That is perfect. There are a few translations. That is perfect. This is perfect. Out of perfection comes, you don't translate Purnam as perfect. You have to translate Purnam as whole, full, complete, infinite. Now we read this mantra again. An invocation in the ancient text of the Upanishad pronounces this truth. Purnamada, Purnamidam. And we always start with Om. Om Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadhaya, Purnameva Vasishyate. 3 words only. Adaha, Idam, Purnam. All the deep philosophical messages in Vedanta will have simple words. They will not have complicated words at all. When you go to the next chapter, we are going to see the aphorisms, Tattvamasi and all that we are going to see. The 4 aphorisms we are going to see there. The next chapter. Simple, simple words. Each and every word is simple. Purnamadame took 2 weeks now. I don't know. Tattvamasi and all, I don't know how many weeks it will take. Such a simple word, and you can derive so much of message out of that. That's why the Upanishadic mantras we have so much of regard and respect, not because it is the oldest. Simple words, but the messages that you can derive out of it is profound. How can 3 words be so profound? That, this, whole. 3 words. Clear? What is this mantra? 3 words only. Nothing more. Clear? Nothing more. But you talk about it. With this, we are completing this mantra. As we are talking about this, I feel we have only touched the periphery of this Purnamada, Purnamidam. Something more also can be told about this. Something more is there. Something more is there. We are not going to do all that. We are finishing with this. When we come back again, we will do it again. Every time we keep revisiting it, and we keep doing it we keep doing it more and more. 3 simple words, but have a profound impact on human thinking. What are the 3 words? That, this, Purnam. Adaha, Idam, Purnam. And the Upanishad itself defined Idam for us in the first mantra. Upanishad doesn't define Adaha. Upanishad defined Idam. In the first mantra of Isavasya Upanishad, the Idam is defined very clearly. What is the first mantra of the Isavasya Upanishad? Isavasyam idam sarvam. Everything here is pervaded by Isha. It means Idam is very clearly defined. Since the Idam is very clearly defined by the Upanishad, the other 2 becomes easy. What are the other 2? Adaha and Purnam. What we discussed now is Purnam in detail. Adaha, so many indicative definitions of Adaha is given, which is what we'll be doing next class. What is the various definitions? What are the various indicators for Adaha? That Ekam, Advayam, Nirakaram, Sarvagatam, Nirgunam, Aksharam, all these Ajam, Nityam, Nirvikaram, Nirmalam, Anantam, Jnanam, Anandam, Turiyam, Achintyam. All these words are given to explain Adaha. That. What is that? Turiyam. What is that? Achintyam? What is that Anandam? What is that Jnanam? What is that Anantam? What is that Nirmalam? What is that Nirvikaram? All that is given. The word Purnam gives a lot of material for contemplation. So, what we did in the 2 classes, we took up this word Purnam and we derived what we can use for our contemplation, thinking, reflection. What I meant by contemplation is reflection. So, the word Purnam is that which can be used for contemplation, reflection, contemplation a lot. Idam is very clear, the world, known. Technically, Drishyam. Drishyam means perceivable, that which can be felt, that which can be thought about. Idam refers to all this. So, Idam is very clear. Adaha is also very clear. Then what is Purnam? So, what we did, 2 sessions we spent on, not so much on Adaha, not so much on Idam. We spent a lot on the word Purnam. Why? The mantra has only 3 words. Adaha, Idam, Purnam. With this, we conclude this mantra. Next session, we will continue studying the various indicative definition, starting from the paragraph, reality is that which persists. We'll start from there. From that paragraph, we start and we go on to reading all these indicators. We conclude for today.